Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. I'm excited to get started. I'm excited to be here. It's a beautiful day, and that always puts me in a good mood. But literally 3 minutes before I went live, I got a notice from the internet provider saying that there's a known issue, there's an outage. I'm like, oh no. So we'll see whether I stay on the whole time in here. Hopefully it'll work good. Hopefully you're all doing well. I'm going to turn off some of these captions. We'll get started in the formal training. By the way, thank you for showing up early and on time. When you do, LinkedIn pushes the word out to everybody else, and that helps a lot. I'll give you a tip for success out there, and it's a pretty good tip about engaging with potential buyers, etc. I use LinkedIn all the time, obviously, to share content, but sometimes I'm engaging the people I'm learning from. And these are really senior people, very successful people. And what I want to encourage you to tip is when you find good content that you like, try to comment in there with something, either adding a little bit of value, which is sometimes good, right? Somebody comes into one of my posts and they'll say something like, yes, and this or something. But the other thing that I tend to do a little bit more is, especially on these guys, is I'm like, wow, this thing in here that you said really resonated with me because of this, and I'm going to go away and do something. They appreciate that. People appreciate it when you guys know this, when you're putting content out and somebody's engaging, you appreciate it, right? Kim Kardashian might not appreciate it because she's got a bazillion people who engage the content. But for most of us normal business professionals, seeing engagement back with what we do helps us and makes us feel good. So anyways, that's a great way to engage with your buyers and also build relationships before you ever reach out to say hi, etc. Okay, that was just a tip for those of you showing up early and on time. I appreciate that you do. If you value the content I share each day, and especially today, do me a favor, repost it without comments. When you do that, it keeps the thread together and it brings in new people into our community so that we can share the information with them and you and I can network with them as well. Today, we're going to be talking about being federal buyers' first choice. And what I mean by this, and I'll obviously talk a lot about this today, but what you want to do is to make sure that you're even considered for the first choice. I like to say if there's a set of results coming back, I want to be on the first page. Like if you think about Google, I want to be on the first page, or I want to be at the top of the results that come in. That's what I want for you. That's what I mean by being the federal buyer's first choice. I want them to see you over and over again so that when they're thinking about reaching out and talking to companies like yours, they do that. Because federal buyers, they don't browse through a vendor's list, right? They search for you specifically. If they're looking for a cybersecurity firm or they're looking for a construction firm doing elevator work or something, they're going to search for you rather than browse through the hundreds of thousands of small businesses that sell to the federal government. I want you to think about your own Google searching, right? Or whatever tool you use that's out there. But when you do Google searching, think about how you search and the pattern that you follow. You search for a keyword, right? You're putting something into Google, a word or a phrase. I like to put questions in. Even when I'm searching for like a roofer, I'll put a whole question in. And that's how I'm searching for it, right? But then think about the results that come back. After you get past that search screen, do you know why the results are in the order that they're in? Google, in whatever tool, right? Google returns whatever results from millions and millions of possible websites that are out there, et cetera. It returns it. And for me, I don't know if it does this for you, but for me, it does it in pages of 10 results. So, I get the first page, it has 10 results, and I have to hit page 2 to go to the next results. And that's a big deal, right? Because that's a huge step for somebody searching, for you to search, right? If it's on the front page, we're intuitively thinking to ourselves, it must be good, right? These must be the leaders. But that's not it, right? Before anybody looks at any content, before you look at any of that content, Google has already suggested a ranking. This happens to the federal buyer as well, not just with Google, but in all the areas that they search, there is this level of something is ranking the results going to your federal buyer. And I want to do what I can to get you to rise up to the top, right? And like I said here, when you see results come back, you're automatically starting with the first set of results. Even if you're going to ignore 8 out of the first 10 or 80 out of the first 100 or whatever it is, even if you are going to ignore it, you're still going to look, not choose them. You're still going to look at them all. Just the fact that your company comes up is a huge deal. And we'll talk about that more as we go along. But if this is what you're wanting, if you want to be in the top 10 results when a federal buyer is looking for a company like yours, put be visible in the chat. Be visible. I want to know that you're tracking with me on the topic we're sharing, but I also want other people who see the comments who are not in here right now to go, what the heck are they talking about? I want to be visible. What are they talking about? Let me get in there and be part of that live. Let's grow our community together. I'm going to go through 4 main slides for today's training on how to rise above your competition, above your competition in the federal market. So the first thing I want to talk about is the problem. And really fundamentally, it comes down to the problem is you're not seen. Still got this little scratchy throat going on. Second thing we're going to talk about is where federal buyers look and then how they search, right? Their physical user experience of searching for a vendor like you. I want to cover that in the slide 3. And then I'll wrap up with really the meat of today's training is around metadata, right? This is how you rise above your competitors. There's all sorts of visibility training. I have taught like hundreds and hundreds of trainings on different ways to be visible. And now I'm talking about how do you get on top, right? You're visible, but how do you rise up to the top? Because metadata, as I put here, is this hidden gatekeeper. Like Google, it's automatically saying whether you're going to show up or not show up, whether you're at the top or not at the top. And that's what we're going to cover down on today. If you don't know me, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we have repeatable, predictable results, and this is what I want for you. This is why I come back and do this training over and over again. If you're not following me already on LinkedIn, follow me on LinkedIn, subscribe to my LinkedIn newsletter, Government Contracting Success newsletter. It is the largest government contracting newsletter out there on LinkedIn, and it's because I'm providing you value. Today, for example, the value I provided was the Naval Air Weapons Center or Warfare Center Weapons Division put out their long-range acquisition forecast. And so I shared that information, but not just, here's a spreadsheet, but broke it up by the buying offices that are in there, and you can really see what's going on. So if you do weapons, you see this. If you're doing more of the administrative support, there's items in there. But this kind of information, I find it and I share it with you so that it speeds up your process to maybe work with them. I'll do lives next week, just FYI. Actually, if I back up one slide for a second, usually the upcoming training, I have it pretty squared away during the week, but I always do my training scheduled for next week over the weekend. I figure out what's important going into the next week. Just so you know, on Tuesday and Friday of this coming week, for those of you who are engaged a lot with what we're doing, I have 2 conferences, one on Tuesday and one on Friday. So I may not do a live those days, but I'll do it Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Okay. So let's talk about the problem, right? And the problem fundamentally is that we're not visible to the buyer or we're not rising up to the top. There are hundreds of thousands of competitors within or federal buyers, small businesses within the federal market, right? Inside of SAM and DSBS, which is updated every year, there's roughly 360,000 small businesses in there. And every year there's 20 or 30,000 new vendors coming in. So we have a lot of competition out there as small business government contractors. But buyers don't have the time to go finding the best companies in there. They don't have the time to really dig through. They have, they have the time to search, right? But if you're not in the results that come up, if you're not found by the buyer when they search in the process or the method that they follow, then you're not even going to be considered, right? You're not going to be rejected. You won't even be considered. And to me, that's far worse. I'm okay with getting rejected because maybe I wasn't a fit and I can improve myself. But if I wasn't even seen and recognized enough to be able to be rejected, then I'm missing out on so much out there. And so it's really a big problem for us when we're not doing all the things we could do to be visible. I'll give you one quick example of something that's not really, it's not in today's training, but it's related on visibility. In DSBS, or which they now call the SBS, because they had to change the name, not to go off on my soapbox, but in the SBA has a tool called the Small Business Search Tool. It's combined with SAM.gov's profile for our businesses to make our small business profile. When federal buyers go look for small businesses, they're encouraged to go into the SBS tool. Inside of there are 360,000, right about 360,000 small businesses registered and actively selling to the federal government one way or another. Also in there, you have a field where you can put your link to your capability statement. 350,000 small businesses don't have a link. Can you imagine when a buyer is looking in this tool, they go, you know what? I want to make sure whatever results I see a capability statement link so that I can do more, understand more about the companies that I'm selecting, right? They have these type of filters that weed us out. We need to understand the process of how that works. What I'm going to talk about today, metadata, is one of the most powerful ones to rise to the top, but you've got to do the things that make sure you even show up on the list. For example, putting your link into DSBS, right? And so I want you to be where federal buyers are looking, and I'll talk more about where they're looking. And then the problem is for us is, are we rising up to the top? What can we do to rise up to the top? You can't do a lot in DSBS about rising to the top because fortunately, DSBS randomly returns the results. So that company, ABC company, doesn't always show up first, right? So the showing up in the results means make sure that you have a capability narrative in there. Make sure you're in there updating your profile. Not part of today's training, but definitely related. So this is the problem, right? We're not being even invited to the party to be rejected. And I want to change that, and I want to help you change that today. So let's talk about where federal buyers search. It's important, before I talk to you about how you can improve your tools and what you're doing so that you rise up to the top, it's important to just understand where federal buyers are searching. They search on internal agency tools, and we'll talk a lot about this, but inside of any federal agency or large business, they have enterprise search tools that are in place. These search tools are designed to help internal employees be able to search their internal hard drives and network drives much faster. They have tons of data, like way more data than you can possibly imagine. And so no different than searching on Google, where they have a ton of results. Even inside an organization like the Army, if somebody tries to search something, it's a massive pool of data. And so the enterprise tools are always trying to figure out, how do we make sure we're serving the right results up to the top? So these are internal agency search tools. And really, it's similar to Google. It just sits inside the network. Second place they're searching are supplier portals. When they go into supplier portals, they'll still type keywords or filter out certain results. And so they're searching inside of, I mentioned DSBS, but many agencies have supplier portals, many agencies, and all large businesses have supplier portals. So these are where these people are searching. They're searching obviously in DSBS and SAM. They're searching on Google, like I just mentioned. And now we have AI tools where the trend is shifting a little bit out of the search tools like Google and into ChatGPT, where I just type in, hey, can you find me a company doing cybersecurity that's a woman-owned small business out of New Mexico? Something like that, right? I can use AI, and then AI is going to a lot of these places. Well, AI, Google, all these other ones are kind of doing the same pattern of searching. It's just different tools, but how they search is fundamentally the same, which I'll come to at the end. And then the last place that is a huge one, and it kind of goes with the first agency search tools, but more specifically, the part I'm trying to touch for today is when federal buyers are searching, they're looking inside of existing documents and data that they have. Existing documents include things like white papers people might have sent, or people send over, you and I send over an RFI response or RFP response. That's a document they get. And so they're getting that, and they put it into hard drives or into the enterprise networks. And so when they're searching inside of those documents to see what kind of results they get back. We do briefings with small business professionals or contract officers, et cetera. and we send them capability statements. We send them our capabilities briefing deck, a PowerPoint, right? Or a PDF file. They are looking in all of these. And when they're searching for companies and doing a keyword search or something, these are all the type of results that come up. Your websites, your LinkedIn profile and company page, your capability statement or capability briefing deck or responses to proposals. All those are kind of the results that are coming up. And those are the things I want to surface to the top, so that when they search for something and there's 5 or 10 or 20 or hundreds of you, I want you to get as close to the top as you can. No tricks, by the way. I'm just teaching you a process that most people don't know. And you'll just go in. By the way, if you wonder how I know, it's because my last company, both my government contracted businesses were IT. So I fully understood the internal workings of any large enterprises network. But my last company, we actually did enterprise search for the Air Force and for the White House and for Department of Homeland Security. For some of the largest organizations, we did enterprise search. Even we did it for Booz Allen, right? To help them see better within their own organization. And so I became an expert at this for 10 years. I just did it over and over again. I could get a document to be the first one to show up. It's a little harder when you do it publicly, but inside of an agency, I could do that. That's the tip I'm going to teach you today. Okay, so just as a reminder, how federal buyers search, it fundamentally is the same for all of us when we go search for something we want to find. If you've been to previous trainings of mine, like in the last couple of weeks, you'll know my garage door is broken. The springs that bring the door up and down, so you have to run to the door and lift it. And if I'm looking for somebody to help me fix that garage door, which I still haven't looked, so if anybody knows, I'm going to go to Google, right? And the first thing I'm going to do is a keyword search, garage door, repair person or repair company or something. And so when I do that search, I'm searching on my problem or the requirement I have, that keyword or key phrase. That's what the federal buyer does. I'm doing market research. I want to find out if there are elevator repair companies. I'm trying to do UV disinfection or water treatment to make sure water is not seeping into my buildings. Whatever it is, I'm going to do this keyword or key phrase search. When that happens for federal buyers, when they search, no matter what tool they search on, that system that they're searching in, whether it's Google, their internal agency search tools, whether it's DSPS, doesn't matter what it is, they all will operate the exact same. They will rank the results and deliver it to the federal buyer. How that ranks is sometimes mysterious and sometimes purely a process. So an example is when you go into Google, there's some things you can be doing that help with the search, but sometimes it's more an algorithm or something that's kicking in. But internal to a federal tools and federal agencies, there's no fancy algorithm. There's just a pure process that I'll talk about. So anyways, the system is returning these results and ranking them. The federal buyer is being unintentionally guided down this path of, hey, look at company FYC and look at company ZSEC-CD or something, whatever, right? I should have just made up real names. It would have been easier. But they're looking straight down that list and they can't help it. That's human nature. So then they're creating that short list of companies that do, and let's say garage door repair that I said, right? I'm creating a list. When I get to 3 people, 5 people, 10 people, I'm going to stop and go, well, let me reach out now and see what I find out. And when I reach out, I might find 2 or 3 companies that are awesome. I go, you know what? I'm done. Why don't you 3 come in and give me a bid? And I'm off to the races because I stopped at 10, right? And that's what's happening at step number 3 is the buyer, the federal buyer creates a short list of companies they're going to reach out to do market research. They're not going to keep adding to that short list. The idea is to put together just a large enough list that they feel comfortable that they'll be able to get good information from industry. You want to make sure you're visible soon enough that you make that short list, because only then, step 4, will they begin to review your company and really understand how great you are. But if that short list gets done and you're the next company, you could be the very best in the entire federal market, but it doesn't matter. You didn't make the short list. You didn't come in early enough. So they're not going to see you. If they did see you, like somehow you just magically jumped on that list, you would be picked. They would be like, oh my God, that company's the best. So that's the problem, right? Is we're not getting on that short list. We're not getting early enough in the results. And so I want to give you a tip in the last 10 minutes here. It's a really straightforward tip. If you haven't done it before, it'll take you a little time to get used to it, but you need to be doing this thing every single on every single document you send out, et cetera. And so let me pop in here really quick. I was going to use bullets and some other stuff, but I decided to use a document that I'm actually going to share on Monday. So nobody go share this on LinkedIn. Let me be the one that's doing it. But anyways, I'm sharing this document, and it's from the federal government themselves. And the reason I liked it is because they're exactly doing what I don't want you to do. They don't have any extra information in here. They did one thing well, and that was it. So hopefully you can see this stuff. I'm going to walk through it. First off, all of these fields that you see, right? It looks like a form. And I know I'm going to talk above some of where you're at and what you know, and hopefully, I'll talk in a way that you'll understand it. And for some of you might be a little ahead, but hold on, because I'll give you some tips that can help you as well. But this is just metadata. This is called metadata. Before we started using the term metadata, we used to just call it properties. In fact, if you go back into some older software, like frankly, if you go into Microsoft products, they don't call it metadata. They call it info, right? But it really is metadata. If you don't know the term metadata, it basically is data describing something, the data describing data to a degree, right? So this is data, these fields you see, this data is describing the document in more detail. It's not giving you the content of the document, it's describing the document. So an example of the most important piece of metadata that any file you have has is a file name. So you can see right here, the file name is PEO, whatever, dash, 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 right? And that's legacy, by the way, which is hilarious. That's legacy government where they just do all those dashes, et cetera. But the file name is absolutely mandatory. It's required, right? You cannot create anything without a file name. The second piece of metadata that is one of the most important ones out there is this title. And if you can see, and I know it's kind of small, I can't really make it bigger. But the title is basically restating the file name, but in a clean way. And that's really important because what happens is inside of an enterprise search tool or any of these tools, the first thing they search is the title, right? They see the title. The title is theoretically very descriptive of this document. Department of the Army Strategic Plan for 2029 or something, right? This is very important. And so when the computers are searching inside of a document, this is what they look at. By the way, I said Microsoft uses the term info. Adobe, who does Acrobat and these files that you're looking at, they call it properties. So it doesn't matter what they call it. You can basically understand that metadata is the properties that describe the document. PowerPoint files, Adobe PDF files, any Google documents, right, from the Google Sheets, et cetera, Microsoft Word and those files, any of the images that you create, like a JPEG or whatever the P one is, PNG, right? Those all have property and metadata in there that describes. And so it's up to you to come in here and fill it out. One of the things, and I'm going to walk through some of the key ones really quick, but one of the most important things to understand about metadata is when a tool is searching for anything, like in searching through files, the first set of results that come to the top are the ones that have the metadata returning the results. So if I search for cybersecurity and cybersecurity is inside your metadata, you'll come up to the top. If I search for cybersecurity and cybersecurity is inside your capability statement, it will come up. But if I search for I'm searching cybersecurity, there's two companies. Both of them have it in their capability statement, but one has it in the metadata. The metadata returns higher in the results. It's just the way search works. And so it's great that you've got it inside your visual capability statement, but come into the metadata and populate this. It takes 30 seconds or something, 1 minute to fully populate it. And frankly, once you have it populated, you can start reusing this through a lot of your marketing material. So I wanted to give you some quick tips that I like using. First off, I already mentioned the title. That's really important. Second one is the subject line. I always duplicate the title into the subject line because different tools prioritize those two different fields, and they're basically the exact same thing. So I always just duplicate the title, which is clean, into the subject line. By the way, if you're doing a capability statement, that title is what gets displayed up in the tabs of the browser, right? So if you just use a file name, it gets kind of messy. But if you use a title, a clean title, now when people are looking at your PDF capability statement online, it looks good. The next thing is the author, right? There's two other big fields that you want to use. One is the author, and inside of Microsoft documents, you will see company. And company is a favorite one of mine to put in. I put GovCon Chamber of Commerce, right? And then I put a dash, and then I put Neil McDonald. I'm trying to make sure wherever I'm out there and somebody searches for, me or the chamber or something, my stuff comes up. Then the next huge one is keywords. Some groups call them tags, right? Like Microsoft, I think, calls it tags. Adobe calls it keywords. It's the same thing. This is where, like, for my stuff, I might put in woman-owned small business, HubZone, 8A, small business, government contracting, STBO. I might put those type of things in there because I'm trying to say my content is related to that. For you, the keywords you want to put in is cybersecurity, risk management framework, whatever your top 10, 20, 30 keywords that you want to be found for, the very best ones to define what your company does. You want those in here. That way, when, again, the federal buyer is searching on keywords, they see yours. And it'll be in any way that it is in the visual documents that you have. But inside the metadata, it's like, hey, here you go. This one really is it. And so there's other metadata in here that you can find and pursue. Just tracking on my time here. But I want to encourage you, this doesn't take long. Sometimes I will go in, like in Microsoft Office, they have a field called comments. I will go into DSBS, grab out the paragraph that describes my company, and put it inside that comment area. This metadata is basically extra branding for you. Extra, it certainly helps with the search, right? But then it gives you a chance to say more than you might say. You could throw extra NAICS codes. Let's say you only put 6 NAICS codes, like is my recommendation on your capability statement. You could put 10 extra ones right inside here. So if somebody searches for that NAICS code, you're still coming up, but you're not crowding your capability statement. So these are important things to remember. Take your capability statement now and go put metadata on it. I just want to watch the time as I'm wrapping up here the last couple of minutes. Here's what I want you to remember from today's training. First off, metadata is hidden. It's properties for your files that are behind the scenes. So that metadata is hidden. But metadata done properly will make you visible. It's totally okay for the metadata to be hidden as long as it's working to make you visible. And the third thing I want you to remember is every single piece of every file you create, et cetera, every content you create, all of it has metadata. Put the metadata in, because when somebody is searching for anything related to what you do, you want to pop up on that list. Even if they reject you, you want to pop up on the list. And by the way, don't put every single, everything out there, every NAICS code, every keyword, only what is specializing on you, because you really want to get found for your expertise and what you sell. If you get found too many times and it's unrelated to what they're searching on, they'll just start rejecting you completely. You don't want that. So hopefully that makes sense. Put metadata rocks like Charles did into the chat. If you found value in my content today or any of the content I share out on LinkedIn, please repost it out there without comment. When you do that, definitely like it and comment inside of my post. But when you repost it without a comment, it engages my network and yours. And so we start building a better community and a bigger community out there. Okay, remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. Part of the process is ending on time. I'm out of time. I will see you next time.